Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. This week we've got an interesting game, doubly so because I'm not even in it. Sean is playing his new The Locust God deck, and he keeps a hand with 2 islands, a mountain, reliquary tower, remand, wheel of fortune, and commander's sphere. Mike, who's playing Saffi EDH's daughter, keeps a hand with Forest, 2 Plains, Sun Titan, Ashnod's Altar, Gift of Immortality, and Mentor of the Meek. Trevor, who's new to the channel, is playing his Yidris Maelstrom Wielder deck, and he keeps a hand with Polluted Delta, Explosive Vegetation, Watery Grave, Soul Ring, Altered Ego, Necrologia, and Gonti Lord of Luxury. Lastly, Matt is playing his The Mimeoplasm deck, and he keeps a hand with 2 forests, an island, Myriad Landscape, Satyr Wayfinder, Managorger Hydra, and Jared, Golgari Lichlord. Trevor starts the game off, so let's get into it. For Trevor's first turn, he plays a Watery Grave untapped, taking 2 damage, and casts Soul Ring before passing to Mike. Mike plays a Plains and passes to Sean. Sean plays Reliquary Tower and passes to Matt. Matt plays a Foul Orchard and passes. For his turn, Trevor plays Polluted Delta, cracking it and taking 3 to find Overgrown Tomb and putting it into play on tap. He then casts Explosive Vegetation to find 2 basics, and having ramped to 6 by turn 2, passes to Mike. At the end of Trevor's turn, Mike casts Enlightened Tutor to go find Blasting Station, and puts it on top of his library. For his turn, Mike draws the Blasting Station, plays a Forest, and passes Sean. Sean plays an Island, and passes to Matt. Matt plays an Island as well, and then casts Satyr Wayfinder. Unfortunately, the Wayfinder hits his Soul Ring, and Matt chooses a Swamp. For Trevor's turn, he starts off his first main phase by casting Gonti, targeting Sean. He then plays Temple of Mystery and Scries, keeping the card on top, before passing to Mike. For Mike's turn, he plays a Plains and casts Mentor of the Meek, before passing to Sean. For Sean's turn, he plays a Mountain and then casts everyone's favorite card to see early on, Wheel of Fortune, making everyone pitch their hands and draw 7 cards. Sean then casts Mana Crypt and passes to Matt. For Matt's turn, he plays an Island and then pays 3 to cast Kadama's Reach, putting a Forest onto the field and a Swamp into his hand. With nothing else, he passes to Trevor. During Trevor's first main phase, he pays 3 to cast Darksteel Ingot, and plays a Wooded Foothill, cracking it to find Smoldering Marsh. With nothing else, he passes to Mike. For Mike's turn, he plays an Exotic Orchard and casts a Kadama's Reach of his own, finding a Forest to the field and to his hand before passing to Sean. On his upkeep, Sean loses the roll and takes 3 thanks to Mana Crypt. During his first main phase, he casts Hedron Archive before playing an Island and passing turn. For Matt's turn, he plays Jungle Hollows, gaining 1 life, and then he casts Explosive Vegetations, because everyone here is ramping for days. He passes to Trevor while he's finding his basics. At the end of Matt's turn, Trevor casts Epiphany at the Drownyard, targeting Sean. He reveals his cards and makes 2 piles, and Sean decides to give him a pile with Temple of Deceit and Bribery. With the spell resolving, Trevor starts his turn. During his first main phase, Trevor plays a Flooded Strand. He cracks it, finding a Breeding Pool and having it come into play untapped, taking 2. He then casts Bribery, targeting Sean, but Sean says no and counterspells it. Moving to combat, he swings Gonti at Sean for 2 damage. Please note that Trevor does forget to find the Shockland at this exact moment, but he does remember before the start of his next turn. With nothing else, he passes to Mike. For Mike's turn, he draws a card and plays Temple Garden untapped, taking 2. He then plays Altar of Dementia and Fecundity before moving to combat. For his combat step, Mike swings his Mentor of the Meek at Matt for 2 damage, but Matt stops the Mentor by throwing Wayfinder in front of it. With Wayfinder dying, Matt gets to draw a card. During his second main phase, Mike sacrifices the Mentor to Altar of Dementia, milling Sean for 2 and drawing a card. With nothing else, he passes to Sean. On Sean's upkeep, he doesn't take any damage from Mana Crypt, and he starts his main phase. Sean then pays 6 to cast the Locust God, and Trevor takes the opportunity to exact some sweet revenge by casting Desertion. Unfortunately, Sean doesn't have any counterspell backup, and Trevor gets his General. Sean then plays Halimar Depths to rearrange the top 3 cards of his library, and passes to Matt. For Matt's turn, he plays a Swamp, and then the table breaks out into some strange conversation involving cats, toes, and superiority. Matt then casts Hermit Druid and Rise from the Graves on Mike's Sun Titan. Sun Titan then triggers, and Matt's able to bring back his Managorger Hydra. With nothing else, he passes to Trevor. Trevor draws for his turn, and the Locust God triggers, giving him a 1/1 red-blue insect token with flying and haste. And for some reason, it strangely resembles a Pokemon card. He then plays a Temple of Deceit, scrying 1 and keeping it on top. He then casts Propaganda, and follows it up by casting Stunt Double, who comes into play as a copy of Sun Titan. Unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of a gap in the footage, but he cracks it to find Sunken Hollows, and then casts Windfall, making everyone discard their hand and drawing 6. This has the added benefit of also giving Trevor 6 1/1 red and blue flying insect tokens with haste. Moving to combat, Trevor's swarm of insects smashes into Matt for 7. With nothing else, he passes to Mike. For Mike's turn, he plays a forest and casts Soul Ring. He then pays 5 to cast Karmic Guide, who brings back Ulvenwald Hydra. The Hydra triggers, and Mike's able to go find Reflecting Pool. Mike then casts Angelic Renewal before passing to Sean. On Sean's upkeep, he loses the die roll and takes 3 from Mana Crypt. Sean then plays a mountain and casts his own copy of Windfall, which gives Trevor another 6 Bs thanks to the Locust God. Sean then casts Impact Tremors and passes to Matt. Matt draws for his turn, and during his first main phase he activates Hermit Druid, which causes the table to wait with bated breath. The top card that Matt reveals, however, is an island, and he puts it into his hand. Matt then plays an island and casts Brainstorm. As he's looking at his cards, Sean makes a bee pun, and I'm really thankful that there's no audio in these games. Matt then has enough mana to overload Cyclonic Rift, which gives Mana Gorger Hydra its 9th counter since coming onto the field during Matt's last turn. Mike responds by sacrificing Ulvenwald Hydra to Altar of Dementia to mill Matt for 8. He then sacrifices Karmic Guide to mill Trevor for 2. As 2 creatures have died, Mike is able to draw 2 cards thanks to Fecundity. This time Mike uses Angelic Renewal to bring back Karmic Guide, who in turn brings back Ulvenwald Hydra, which when it enters the battlefield allows Mike to search for Canopy Vista. Mike decides not to sacrifice any more creatures, and as a result Cyclonic Rift resolves and all non-land permanents go back to their owner's hands. Matt then moves to combat, swinging the Mana Gorger Hydra at Trevor for 10, and Sun Titan and Mike for 6. Unfortunately, Matt forgets to bring back a permanent that costs 3 or less thanks to Sun Titan, and he passes to Trevor. Trevor starts his first main phase by playing a Windswept Teeth and cracks it, taking 1 to find Cinderglade. Trevor then recasts his Soul Ring, and he casts Phyrexian Metamorph, paying 2 life to copy Mike's Sun Titan that Matt currently controls. The Metamorphed Sun Titan's trigger brings back Trevor's Rhystic Study, and then he replays Propaganda. He then finishes his turn by casting Gaunty, targeting Matt. For Mike's turn, he plays a Wooded Bastion and recasts Altar of Dementia. He then recasts Karmic Guide to bring back Fiend Hunter, who, with the exile trigger targeting Matt's Mana Gorger Hydra, sacrifices the Hunter with a trigger on the stack to mill Sean for 1. This allows him to permanently exile the enormous Hydra for good. Mike then casts Saffi, who he sacrifices to bring back Karmic Guide the next time it dies, and sacrifices the Karmic Guide. This is technically an infinite loop, but Sean makes a point of mentioning that he runs 2 Eldrazi, so although Matt and Trevor may mill out, he won't. Trevor, however, corrects Sean by saying that he might have started the game with 2 Eldrazi, but in reality he only has 1 left. With no one able to stop this, Matt and Trevor mill out, and Sean goes through the motions until he hits his Kozilek Butcher of the Truth. Mike then casts Soul Ring and taps it to cast Skull Clamp. With the 1 extra mana, he equips it onto Saffi and repeats the cycle once to draw 2 cards. With nothing else, Mike ends his turn and he has to discard 3 cards at the end of his turn and pitches 3 lands. For Sean's turn, he plays a Mana Crypt and drops a mountain as his land drop. He then taps 6 to cast the Locust God. He then casts Preordain and puts the 2 cards on the bottom and draws a card, which nets him one of those sweet insect tokens. He then casts Standstill and passes turn. Unfortunately for Matt, he's unable to draw and loses the game, which passes it to Trevor's turn. On Trevor's upkeep, he flashes in Stunt Double, copying Karmic Guide. This triggers Standstill and Sean and Mike draw 2, with Sean gaining 2 more insects. Trevor then brings back Dax Duplicant as a copy of Karmic Guide, who brings back Clever Impersonator as a copy of Karmic Guide, who brings back Evil Twin as a copy of Karmic Guide, who brings back Alter Ego as a copy of Karmic Guide, who brings back Gigantoplasm as a copy of Karmic Guide, who brings back Progenitor Mimic as a copy of Karmic Guide, who ultimately brings out Snapcaster Mage. With Snapcaster Mage's ETB triggering, it targets Crossing Grip, which Trevor then casts to destroy Mike's Altar of Dementia. Trevor then unfortunately can't draw and loses the game. On Mike's upkeep, he sacrifices Saffi to bring back Karmic Guide because he doesn't want to pay for the echo cost. Mike then plays a Plains and recasts Fecundity before casting Yavimaya Elder. He then sacrifices the Elder to get 2 basics and also draws 2 cards, 1 from itself and 1 from Fecundity. Feeling like he's not drawing enough cards, he then casts Sylvan Library and equips Clamp onto Saffi. At the end of his turn, Mike has to discard down to 7 before passing to Sean. On Sean's upkeep, he takes 3 from Mana Crypt. He then draws for turn and gets another insect token. During his main phase, he plays an island, and then casts Impact Tremors. Sean then casts Hellrider, and Mike takes 1 from Impact Tremors. Sean then casts Minds Aglow, where X is 3, with both he and Mike drawing 3 cards. This gives Sean 3 more insect tokens, and Mike takes 3 more from Tremors. Sean then moves to combat, swinging all of his insects at Mike, which triggers Hellrider 8 times and deals 8 damage immediately to Mike. Mike decides to chump one of the insect tokens with Karmic Guide, which dies, allowing Sean to draw a card from Fecundity and gets another insect token, which then in turn triggers Impact Tremors, dealing another one to Mike. Sean then passes turn. At Sean's end of turn, Mike moves through the motions of the Saffi Karmic Guide combo and draws 4 thanks to Fecundity and Skull Clamp. On Mike's draw step, Library allows him to see 2 extra cards, and he snap keeps one of them. He immediately casts Eternal Witness, who returns Blasting Station, and with Sean tapped out, he has no trouble resolving the artifact. With the Saffi Karmic Guide combo still online, Mike is able to cycle through it and kills Sean. Game review time. Saffi Eriksdotter is a dedicated and brutal combo deck, and I really like the interaction she has with enter the battlefield creatures. I can now understand why they got rid of the whole double clause when it comes to exiling and returning things, because doing things like that with Fiend Hunter can be pretty dirty and get really annoying after a while. It was a shame that Matt's Mimeoplasm deck didn't really get going, and unfortunately he wasn't really able to use his commander. It was also particularly disappointing when Hermit Druid didn't even mill him 1 card. Trevor's Yidris deck is a lot of fun, and he runs mono clones basically, copying spells and stealing creatures. Sure, he didn't have to go through the motion of getting all those clones back onto the battlefield just to resolve the one Snapcaster Mage, but when you're playing EDH and you're about to go out, you go out with a bang. Sean's Locust God deck is ridiculous. I do not understand why those insects have haste. They are so good. You can resolve like 4 wheels in a turn and have like a big, huge board full of these flying insects. And just completely forget about it if you're running any kind of Anthem effects for these guys, like Coat of Arms or even Metallic Mimic. I mean, at this point, I'm a big fan of all 3 of the gods, so it was really great to be able to see one in action so soon. Please be sure to tune in every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video, with a second video popping up sometime during the week. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta, or check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below or in the About section. As always, thank you guys for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.